everybody. Welcome back to Heal Yourself Naturally, brought to you by IPAC. My name is Nicole Dromi. I am joined by Chava Levy and Sarah Woods Kender once again on our lovely podcast. Today, we'll be talking about men's health, men's hormones in specific, and the topic that nobody likes to discuss, menopause. So women go through changes in their life, and so do men. And it's a topic that's overlooked many times. And so we thought we should discuss it because men deserve also to get a little bit of a break from their symptoms that they're feeling as they age. And so this is what we'll be discussing today. I'll throw it straight to Sarah just because we have a good amount to discuss, and
I got
the ball's in your court. The ball's in your court, Sarah. I want to know from you, what are the most common symptoms that men will have once they reach a certain age and hormonal changes start to happen?
Yeah, so I do help a lot of men with what I call menopause, but it's actually called androgenopause or something, ridiculous like that. So I kind of like menopause because it's fun to say. And and typically what happens because men start to their testosterone drops, right? So women's hormones, there's a lot more going on there. So it's a little bit more complicated. But so are women, right? And then we've got men who tend to be less complicated, and so are their hormones. Um, so a drop of testosterone and changes like that can bring about libido, lowered libido, fatigue, um, you know, lowered ambition, sometimes depression. It depends on, of course, depression is very situational, and also prostate. So I would have to say between libido and prostate are the two things that I really help men with the most. And that's what most men suffer from, or those are the symptoms of a lowered testosterone in the blood. So to be short and sweet about it, that's
And what are some herbs? Okay, let's tackle one at a time. So, what are some herbs you would recommend for balancing the testosterone in the body?
I like.
Um,
Okay, good.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No,
I
we'll talk
like
about that first.
I use several, and one of my favorites is called Eleuthero, and it used to be called Siberian ginseng, but it's a Eleutherococcus centicosus. And Eleuthero is what we call it, and it is an adaptogen, coincidentally. And if you've been following along with us, you understand that adaptogens help the body deal with stress, but what adaptogens really do is help balance hormones, stress hormones or sex hormones. We do use Eleuthero a little bit for women. I like Eleuthero specifically for testosterone. I think it's kind of a male plant, if you will. Just like ginseng tends to be a male plant, that's also a nice one too to help balance hormones, increase natural testosterone. But I would have to say Eleuthero is my favorite. And I also use, it's called Murapuma, which is, it's not something that grows in the United States. I'm not quite sure where it grows. I think probably South America. And it's the bark of a tree. And I think it's a tree, and it works really well to help raise testosterone. So those two are really nice. And then the third one for specifically testosterone is called Yohimbe. And that one is also it can be kind of stimulating just like these other ones. And again, it's a bark, um, and it helps with testosterone. I use other herbs for like prostate issues, so that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I want to talk about that as well. But first, I have a question. So you have a client that comes in with low testosterone. You recommend some of these herbs or a blend of them, right? And
Yep.
so would you suggest, dosage is always bio individual. So would you suggest they continue testing to find their own right dosage amount to see if their testosterone levels went up, or what would you suggest to a client?
I always love to see a diagnostic. I mean, there's one thing I do like doctors for is the diagnostics, because of course I don't do that, right?
Right,
Uh, I do like to see, if indeed it is testosterone that's the problem here, because sometimes it
right.
could be thyroid, sometimes it could, so it is nice to see that. And of course, I would love to see, if they've been on it for about 3 months, if things are changing and helping. I do have one client that I believe, if memory serves, they did get some blood work and the testosterone did go up. Um, and so, I do get some feedback sometimes, but it's not always the case with people, because if they start taking something and then they feel better, then, that's usually what happens.
That's usually the cue. Yeah, right. But some people just like to see it on paper, you know.
Yeah, and I love that. And as far as dosage, uh, you know, and I think Hava, you're the same. We make extract. I usually give men extracts. Sometimes I give them tea, but men like to swig an extract before they sip a tea. Okay, it's just the way I've seen. Call me sexist, I don't care, but that's just the way it is. They tend to do extracts better, and usually we're making our extracts in the ratio of 1 part herb to 5 parts. I mean, 1 part, yeah, 1 part herb to 5 parts liquid. So it's a 1 to 5 ratio, which is middle of the road potency. I would probably start uh, the dosage at 2 to 3 teaspoons a day. And I would have them do it in the morning, because these herbs can be stimulating and we don't want to keep them up,
at
at
night. Yeah.
night,
Hmm.
unless that's what they're going for. But,
Especially for increasing their libido.
right.
Right.
So anyway, so that's the starting dosage, and we tweak it from there if we have to.
Yeah, and again, so a lot of people when we treat them specifically, we like to, address how does this make you feel? How are you feeling after a couple of months of this dosage? And I know you both can attest to liking feedback as treatment goes on, right? So don't just take something and expect a change. And if you don't feel a change, then obviously vocalize it or increase the dosage,
And I have to just
etc.
interject right here, because that is the hardest part for people. And
Right.
Especially
Papa
for
and
men.
I were just talking about this the other day too. It's like I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the herbal consults, because I find that, I'm more invested than other people are. And I don't mind if a formulation isn't working for somebody and they come to me and say, look, I always say that anyway. If things, don't seem to work quite the way you'd want, let's tweak it. And so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to interject and say, yes, we like the feedback. We need the feedback because everybody's different.
Right. And that's why I said specifically, we're bio individual. We're all different. We're built differently. Our bodies are not the same. Our reaction to herbs are not the same. Yes, we'll get results, but some people need an additional herb or a combination of them or less or more. And so it's always fair to say that if you are working with an herbalist, preferably one of our wonderful herbalists, if you are working with them, then feedback is encouraged, and also taking it into your own hands, and jotting things down like how you're feeling. I think in a healing journey, or with specific issues, if you're having them, it's always good to jot things down as your treatment goes, so that you may not feel a change right away, but gradually, especially if you're looking back in a notebook that you've written things down in, you'll see that certain things are changing. And it's always good to see it on paper, because we have so much going on in life, we may brush it over and forget about it. So it's always good to keep a journal of things. I think it's important. Kava, I want to hear some of your favorite herbs for testosterone. Like, what I know that I've seen on your
I mean,
website.
I agree with Sarah and about the herbs, and I don't know if I really want to bring herbs more into the picture, because I think Sarah did mention enough. The only couple herbs that I would add for males is the cayenne. And the cayenne is very important because it helps to create circulation. And it's not just, it's also a heart food. It's also incredible because many males are suffering from heart problems. They're suffering from lack of oxygen. And the males, they're usually the ones that are rushing. They're outsiders. And when they're outside, they give everything all in. And I do feel sometimes cayenne, really, it should be part of the men's daily life, where they wake up in the morning and put some cayenne. Because through the life and through my working with so many people, when I look at the males, I don't in reality see much problems with the hormones as I do see problems with stomach issues. I see the prostate problems. This is where I'm experienced more. I do experience with people who are closer to the age 60, 70, and they're starting having problems with prostate cancer. All those problems are so right here, and it's not a new thing, but because we live in toxic world, they are really, how I would say, they're a big problem that I see on the surface at this moment. I also would suggest another herb that I might be funny, but I would suggest juniper berries are absolutely incredible as well, because they will also make the person to go to the bathroom, something that people don't understand, and especially the males. Even we as a woman, we speak, we cannot hold, we really, we have to run to the bathroom, but we don't tell this to the men, and the men, they have the same problem. The men have the same, when they need to go and they're long driving, and they are keeping in, which means they're keeping toxicity inside that causing problems in the kidneys. And once it causing problem in the kidneys, they can go into the prostate. So what does it tell you? We also have to speak about openly, when you have to go to the bathroom, when your nature calls, go. It's not something new, but males are forget about as well. So I do want to bring this to the surface as well. And I would suggest juniper berries for that. And juniper berries is incredible. It's good for the kidneys. It's also wonderful because it will increase the flow of a pee. So that way, when you flush it, you will flush it well. Because what is a prostate? It's a buildup of a toxicity. It's a buildup of calcified material that slowly, with the time, creates a problem. And my grandfather, actually, he had the problem, and I would remember how grandma would wash the pants every few minutes, and how he would stand up and he had the urgent and he would just go. What the problem is? The problem is because of a toxicity. I don't remember my grandfather ever drinking water besides a black tea. That's what usually people would drink in Russia. So yeah, many people need to remember those basic things. And when you really put into your mind that if you have to go to the bathroom, you go, and you don't sit, till I get to my home comfortably. That's not a smart idea. So yeah, the cayenne will take care of your heart. And I did create a male food formula specifically for people who are having issues with either their hormones, but mainly with the prostate problems, because as I said, that's what I see in most cases. Stomach and the prostate, that's what I see.
So what are some of the herbs in your male food formula?
Well, I use the cayenne.
For prostate.
Cayenne is my favorite. Yeah, the cayenne is my favorite, obviously, as always, and it's energizing, right? The next I use ginger, and the ginger is also very good. Then I use a gravel root. The gravel root is very good because it really helps to remove those stones, those calcified materials that are building up in there, right? Because many men are suffering from kidneys. What the kidneys is, what is built up from, what is this stones are made? They're all dehydrated material. Same thing with the gallbladder, right? That's all those stuff are dehydrated material. This is like proteins. There's stuff that our body was supposed to flush it out, but because we didn't provide enough, then it create this into the gravel. That's why actually gravel road it's called, right? We could kind of say in that way. Then golden seal is very good because golden seal is always good, helps to take care of any sort of infection. And the golden seal is very high in berberine, and berberine is important to making check that there is no inflammation, there is no infections. So that's what I use in my formula. Another one is a marshmallow, which is very soothing. And many people who are suffering from problems like when they go to the bathroom, they do feel pain. they feel the sharpness, they feel like it like a sensation that's not so comfortable. So marshmallow root is very soothing in that case, right? This is what I use. Yeah. So actually, and a couple months ago, I had mistletoe to the formula, because I don't know why, but this herb suddenly spoke to me, and I thought, I mean, it's maybe that's the formula needs to be. I mean, this herb should be added as well. Yeah. So, but that's the basics, and uva ursi is also wonderful tea that. We can prepare for our husbands, and that will also increase amount of flow and will help them to remove the toxicity. Other things I suggest for the males always to go to sauna and get a little bit sweat, get some sweat out, because many males they don't I found like I've had 50-year-old men come to me and said like, I have this and that problem. And then I said, okay, so are you ever do some exercise? Yeah, I do exercise. But how will you wash your skin? So he would tell me, I take just the soap. And he took the soap and started scrubbing with the soap like that. I said, no, you have to really scrub your skin. You have to create circulation. You have to remove the toxins out of your skin, because you eat, drink, and poop from your skin as well. Many men don't understand that, and it's very important. So they learn to scrub properly their parts, and specifically when it comes to the lower area, to create circulation in that area, right?
Right.
So sauna is wonderful because you sweat and you remove toxins, and then it's very important to rebuild those minerals that you lost. And by rebuilding, I usually always would suggest nettles, because nettles are incredible. I
Right.
found nettles are absolutely incredible because they're nourishment for all, right? So
Right.
yeah, so that's what I would suggest. And I would suggest also salty water or a little water with minerals, so that way we can bring back those minerals that we're losing. And many men, they go to do exercise, but then they don't replenish it, and they drink these ugly drinks that are full of sugar, and they say, oh, that's my power drink. It doesn't do shit. It doesn't do anything to you. It
Right.
does
Like
an opposite. It's
a
actually
protein blend. Right.
right. And another thing is very important that I see in a lot of males, and I don't know if it's come in the young males, and it also goes to the adult males, where they exaggerate with exercise, where they feel like, oh, we want to be in shape, so they pump, and then I see so much problems in their stomach. They're like kind of so connected because they do so much, and then we have bleeding ulcers, or then we have hemorrhoids, and all that comes because of too much exercise. So you really want to know yourself, and the body tells you, hey, you have enough. Maybe you don't have the muscles like the Arnold Schwarzenegger or the hell whoever they are, but you're good the way you are. Love yourself. And many men, they have this problem. They want to show, if I don't have this all six packs, then I'm useless. That's not correct. That's not what the woman needs. I mean,
Right.
maybe some women do, but we need it
Right.
for
So
safety.
on a surface, it's more of a surface thing. But yeah, okay. So I really love some of your suggestions. Again, both of our healers have websites where you can visit them, sarahsherbs.com, havawellness.com. You can also set up consultations with them if you do want to take this more seriously or purchase any of their blends. Sarah, I would love to hear from you about prostate herbs, or, more about the prostate health, because like you said, it's more of a common issue for men once they reach a certain age. So I'd like to hear from you about it.
Yeah, and it seems like a modern issue. There's so
Right.
many things that we suffer from now that we consider normal, right? I don't think
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on, except that there's an issue with testosterone, and it takes a certain form that can create inflammation in the prostate. First and foremost, let's define the prostate. The prostate is a gland that sits kind of around the near the bladder, but around the ureter. So that's where all the urine will go through. Kind of the prostate sits around it. So when the prostate's inflamed, it pinches on that ureter, that line that goes out, and it reduces the stream. So first we want to reduce the inflammation in the prostate. And I look at the prostate like the male uterus, which is,
True.
it's
Yeah, sure.
kind of like the male uterus. It is part of the whole reproduction. It holds like the seminal fluid. It doesn't hold the semen, but it holds the seminal fluid that helps that whole process.
Produce, yeah.
Right. So I look at it like that. I've actually with some men tested red raspberry on it to see what would happen. I haven't tested it long enough, so I can't, it's inconclusive at this point in time, but it's something that I want to continue to try. But my go-to formula for prostate issues, which works, you know, it works as long as the person is taking enough of it a day, it works really well. And I've had one gentleman on it for probably, oh my gosh, I would have to say 7 years now. He's been taking this religiously for 7 years, and he only has to get up once a night now, whereas he was getting up like 3 and 4 times a night. So the
Right.
the, the formulation is one, it's chaga mushroom. So chaga is a double extraction, and we can talk about that separate if you wanted to. So it's a double extraction of chaga mushroom. It's saw palmetto berry.
Hmm.
It's pygeum bark, and it's nettle root. And those four things um, are amazing at reducing inflammation in the prostate. It doesn't reverse it, but it alleviates the symptoms, and so you can get more elimination of urine, every time you have to go. I do think, Hava, you're totally right. Is that a lot of this is poor diet, and it's just like women who have more menopausal symptoms, right? It's like you're not taking care of something. And so,
Toxic buildup, yeah.
right? And so I would certainly wonder what's going on with their diet. But we're also seeing, as far as minerals, I would be looking at zinc and selenium
Right.
specifically. And I oftentimes will say, well, just eat Brazil nuts or have some sesame seeds or try to
Right.
get I give them all the food with the good stuff in it, with the
Right.
minerals that really will target the issue. And if they're not really doing that, then go on a zinc picolinate, something chelated, which means your body can absorb it, and that's when you read a supplement and it says chelated on there, it's usually a mineral. And that means it's in a form that your body doesn't have to work so hard to break it down, and it's more absorbable and assimilated into your body. So go on some zinc picolinate if you're not going to eat your pumpkin seeds, your Brazil nuts, and all the stuff.
Yes.
Yes. And so zinc, I think, is really targeted. Of course, zinc is also very much, involved in not only immune system, but involved in the whole prostate sex organ thing for everyone.
Right.
And then I'd wonder about their B12 status. That's a big one. Oh, and then eat oysters. It has a nice amount of B12. So B12, zinc, and then with those herbs, you can really target the prostate and hopefully getting things moving again. I love the idea of cayenne because, of course, we always want to, the circulatory tonics. My favorite is probably hawthorn. And because it's so heart-centered as well, and how, so many men suffer from this heart chakra issue, that it's like throw some hawthorn in there as a circulatory tonic. And that way too, the blood's moving and everything's getting to where it needs to go. This gentleman was on, and not that I care too much about, not that I don't care, but I don't worry too much about hawthorn and blood thinners, but he was on a blood thinner for a while. I think he's still on it. He had a stroke many, many years ago. So I've kind of stayed away from hawthorn with him, although chaga is a blood thinner, but thinner as well. It's a regulator. A lot of herbs are, but he was on it throughout, like before he went on the
The
blood
treatment, yeah.
thinner and then after. So I said, you know what? stay on it. They've looked at your blood, they looked at your coagulation factors. You're on a certain one that you don't have to watch your diet too much. I said, just stay on the chaga. It's going to be fine. And it has
Right.
been fine. And he's, he's probably my number one case study for prostate that I can say from, beginning to end, we could totally see,
Improvement.
the improvement. And he had a little lapse, I would say like a couple of months ago, and not sure what was going on. It could have been stress, the body changes, blah, blah, blah. And the inflammation got really bad. And then he ended up going on some kind of drug. I forget what it's called. It begins with a T. But he still stays on the concoction because he's definitely still getting benefit from it.
Results. Yeah,
So you
exactly.
can still use some medication, with it. I will always love the integrated stuff. You get really good results when you can integrate. Because some people, not that I'm not anti-drug, I'm anti-dumb drug, It's like, just don't throw a bunch of pharma meds at it and think it's gonna, oh, here's another pharma med. It's like, but if you can be mindful about the approach, I don't think pharmaceuticals are all that bad. But I
Right.
think, of
Especially
course,
for people who aren't changing their lifestyle, because it really, you could live a pharma-free life, right? If you're catching things early on, but that will only happen if there is a huge lifestyle change, and
yeah.
that takes effort. And we live in an effortless life in a sense nowadays, where things are much easier and they're easier to come by. I'm not, dismissing anybody's hardships, but I'm just saying we're in a fast-paced world where
Yeah.
things are just, we're used to things happening fast.
And this
And
guy
so
definitely didn't change his lifestyle at all. And coincidentally, he was a runner,
so
historically.
there's a lot of pressure as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of
So people
running, depleting the
running,
body, and
right. And so, yeah, your healing journey can definitely happen with herbs alone, but you have to take a lot into your own hands. And I really loved what Kava said. Men are very, in traditional households, let's say, where men are the breadwinners or whatever the case might be, or they're just, they feel a lot more stress. Um, Not in all, you know, occasions, not in every household. I'm just saying in a traditional sense.
yeah.
And so that stress is also something huge. And we all know that stress brings on diseases. And so we've spoken many times with women, and especially with getting pregnant, when we were talking about the women's hormones, we said to alleviate certain stresses. And I think that's conducive also for the male population, that, when you're reaching a certain age, men don't like to retire, which is great for them because they need a purpose still, but they should take into account what's stressing them and how to alleviate that stress. And also, Chava suggested something great, going to a sauna, because that's also a huge stress reliever. Not only that, you get to sweat out your toxins. So it's something that people should take into account. And like always, like we've always said on every single podcast, clean your stomach. Eliminate toxicity. Make sure things are flowing. Get it out of your system so that you're less likely for it to cause inflammation, and then bring on diseases, right? Now, a huge topic as well, something that men go on and later, that they happen to have later on in life, is libido and decreased libido. And so a lot of men go on a Viagra drug or whatnot. But I know that there's a lot of herbal medication that can be taken to increase libido and sex drive and whatnot. Kava, what are some of your suggestions?
Whoa.
Oh.
Well, that's that's a hard question. I have to think. I'll pass to
Okay.
Sarah and then
Sarah,
I'll think
pass.
about that.
We're
Pass
throwing the
on.
ball. I threw the
Well,
imaginary
I'm
tennis ball.
thinking it will take some time. If you want to sit in peace and wait till
No,
something
it's
will come
okay.
up to
We know
my
you've had
mind.
a crazy day today, so we'll let you slide.
I mean, the
Sarah,
only
what
thing
is
I might say is the omega 3, 6, 7, and 9. And I don't know why I'm saying that, but the omega 3, 6, 7, and 9, it's very good because it creates a good balance, an important balance in the body, and helps with brain function and
our big brain
I
and
don't
little
know
brain
that
for the men,
omega
right?
is very important. When
Hormones,
we
yeah.
are lagging omegas, then we are in trouble, you know. So I found that maybe a good essential fatty acids are important very much for the men.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. So that's it's like the first thing that flew into my mind. I mean, at this minute, yeah.
Okay, Sarah, what are your some herbal suggestions?
Yeah, so barring any like medications that could be actually the root cause of it as opposed to menopause,
Right,
I
right.
like my favorite for libido is milky oats. It's oat tops for men or women. It helps.
Women, yeah, we spoke about this last time for women as well that are going
Yeah.
through
And
menopause.
it's
Yeah.
like it's the easiest thing in the world. I would do tea. I prefer tea with that. But if you're going to tincture it, get the fresh stuff. You want to get fresh milky oats and make a tincture. But I love it. It not only helps with vaginal thinning and dryness, it really increases libido for everybody. So I make a tea blend, and you could make a nice elixir with it, and have it for, make a little Valentine's Day package situation. Um, and so other ones that I use besides milky oats were the ones that I mentioned that actually increase testosterone. So Maripuma, Eleuthero, all these are considered sexual tonics. But the one that's out there that most people remember probably is Damiana.
Right.
Damiana it's a nervine stimulant. So it's going to give you some energy, but it's also an aphrodisiac. And so you can blend these in teas or extract, but you know what? You know what you do really? Like you eat some oysters. Like oysters are an aphrodisiac. And I had mentioned those to use for prostate health and for B12.
Right.
So, a lot of these herbs are double or triple duty. And
Right.
so,
Especially in men's health. Yeah.
yeah, well, with that in mind.
Yeah.
But this is why they say, eating oysters is an aphrodisiac, because it is. I mean,
Right.
it's certainly,
Unless we have anybody listening that is like, allergic to shellfish or whatever the case might
well,
be.
barring all that, and
Barring all that, yeah.
and if they're a vegan and they don't want to eat,
Right.
animal flesh,
Yeah.
that's fine. There's other ways. So milky oats, maripuma, eleuthero, yohimbe, those are my favorites. And then
Ginseng is good
Damiana,
too, right? Ginseng.
ginseng,
I'm
yeah,
saying ginseng. Yeah,
yeah,
you said this before, yeah.
yeah.
Right. And so, like you said, the ones that are also helping increasing testosterone will increase your libido because, that's a side effect. The decreased libido can be a side effect of the decrease in the testosterone in the male body, et cetera, right?
Yeah. And I would add in, some hawthorn in there too, just for circulatory strength.
Get the blood pumping.
Get it going, right?
Get it going.
Feed the
Damn.
heart.
Feed the heart. Feed
Feed the
the
heart.
big head and the little head. We got that covered.
Right.
Right. And so, again, mineral intake is huge, especially when you are, getting to a certain age at all ages, obviously. But, when you're reaching a certain age, we are lacking in a lot of minerals throughout our life. And so oh, what a cute dog. Such a distraction. For me at least. Yeah. Hi, baby. So we are, we have to continue mentioning increase in mineral, intake throughout your life so that you're less likely to run into these problems, right? And detoxification, and we've talked about it in many podcasts before. A great way to detox is through cleaning your diet, increasing good food and cleaning your bowels. And so that's something that we've always come back on because the pressure, like Chava mentioned, a lot of the pressure that's there will go down. Also, lifestyle, like you mentioned, your client was a runner, and that's also something that, you know, that constant jumping, shifting, it will build up pressure.
Oh, you know, Nicole, if people are sitting too long, and that's another thing.
Correct.
You're sitting for a prolonged time. You basically don't. There is no good blood flow in the
Right.
area, and I always suggest to do clapping exercise and stretching for the men. So usually men will do pumping the muscles, but they forget about the importance of stretching. And that's
Right.
where clapping exercise is absolutely essential for males. And I would actually get my clapper and I would show where you clap, and the men would hold their like hold their part. I'm like, are you sure? Yes, you actually have to clap not on the penis itself, but you do clap around, and that helps to create circulation. And people don't really understand. And then stretching, as more you stretch, the better it is. If you look up in a lot of um, Tai Chi, if you look, they're all about stretching. There is a certain way they hold their legs in a certain condition, a certain way where the blood will flow synergetically to the area and will help to heal, you know. And I do think that many males, they don't Pilates are for women, but that's not really. It's very important to stretch, and I've seen incredible results when I had the actually a special table here. I don't see clients in my house anymore, but before when I had the clients coming to me, and I had this special table, and I call this torturing table. And the table is basically is straight like this, and it has like by the end a special piece to hold the leg up. So I would put the person lie down, and his one leg should go up, and another leg goes down with weights. And if I would see that the person cannot even hold his leg straight, I would knew right away there is an inflammation, there is a problem, there's not good blood flow. So that was like the best way. And some men will look at me, why are you torturing me? But that actually shows you how bad the circulation is specifically in the area that close.
Right. And you also mentioned proper scrubbing to increase circulation as
Right,
well.
but that I'm telling you, this is incredible. Just everyone should do this exercise. Put the table or chair near the wall. Put one leg down and one leg up. And if you see that you cannot hold the leg straight, that will show you that you are having a problem, and you might have a problem soon with prostate and many other issues. Yeah.
Yeah. Around me, not too far from where I live, there's this place called Stretch Lab, and that's what they specialize in, is stretching people. And it's like really, really cool. And I've heard of many men and women that I know that go and get stretched, and I hear such incredible things about it. Because, like you said, there's this, you know, stigma that Pilates, let's say, or yoga is just for women, when everybody benefits from that type of exercise. Stretching is so essential, especially someone who's pumping muscles or, like, you know, lifting weights constantly, and you have a retraction of the muscles. You need to, you know, contract, retract. You need to have both. And that's what's beautiful about Pilates, let's say, is that whenever you're working on one method in the class, then right after, if it's a good teacher, a good instructor, you're working on the opposite. So there's like the ab workouts where you're doing more of a contraction, and then an ab workout where it's more of a stretch. You're still working out your ab muscles, but you're stretching them and elongating them so that there's no pressure there, and so that you're working it out.
Most musculoskeletal issues that people suffer from, whether you're a man or a woman, is because of lack of stretching.
Right.
And I honestly think, you know, and my mom's ears burn every time I teach or talk, because she's my example. You know, she's
Your guinea pig, your number one
she
guinea
is.
pig.
And I tell her this all the time. I said, Mom, if you don't use it, you lose it. And the reason why
Right.
you have stenosis here and you have shoulder pain is because you aren't stretching, you aren't moving your body. So you either have atrophy of the muscles, and then the
Right.
ligatures, the ligaments and the tendons, you're putting more pressure on those things. And so
Right.
they get even tighter and tighter. And when you're sitting like this on your phone all day or whatever, your device, she's got all this inflammation and all this stuff. And I'm giving her a massage. And I said, you're tighter than, an 8-day clock every
Yes.
day. It's like, and that's the source of, and then you get this tightness, and then it wears on the little holes in your spine, and then you get stenosis because it's basically a scar tissue that forms. And she's got it all over her back. And I really feel like most people's musculoskeletal problems, as long as they aren't in some major accident that did cause, that's the root cause of their
Right.
musculoskeletal
It's
problem.
lifestyle.
It's a lack of stretching, and I mean, I'm starting to finally get back into stretching again. And I'm telling you, it really works. It's really nice. And I have a hip problem, and I'm every night I'm working further and further down, and I can feel that my hip doesn't hurt during the day as much. And it's like, we
Right.
favor one side, and men or women, we favor one side. We sleep mostly on one side. And so, when we look at all that lifestyle stuff, we can really get down to the root cause of this stuff.
Right. And stretching is a huge
Huge.
a helper in circulation. So, right, if you have these issues that come with lack of stretching, one of them will be lack of proper circulation. And so every single one of our podcasts have tied into one another, right? All three of us can attest to that. Every single one of our podcasts have tied into one another. And that's the beauty of natural healing, because when we speak to patients or when we talk to people and we tell them about what they do, it all connects, right? And our beginning podcasts, our key things was circulation, bowel movements, detoxification, and then those three, with addition to, obviously, when you have certain illnesses and then symptoms arise, you can supplement with different herbs. But those three are the major ones that they come back to every single topic that we've discussed. And so it's something to think about, that if you are trying to get rid of an issue, it's not just what herbs you can take, it's how do I change my life to make it better.
A
And
good
what
sleep. Let's add a good sleep. It's very
Right.
important for our
And we
health.
talked about herbs last week, or 2 weeks ago. We talked about herbs that are good for insomnia, and then we also brought up a perfect example. Kava said about an object in a room that was causing a woman that was going through menopause, that she wasn't able to sleep because there was a big clock on her wall. And so it's also yeah, I don't know if our viewers remember that story, but it's stuck with me because sometimes it's things that are around us that will, for lack of a better word, will suppress our ability to move on in our healing journey. And so you have to look at everything. That's why I always think it's great to document when you're going through a healing journey, and then take one thing at a time, address every little issue, and then hopefully your lifestyle will change. That's our goal, is to change your lifestyle when we're treating and helping people with their issues.
Yeah.
I want to just say, like, any last words about our topic today?
Well, we could talk about, as far as men's health, we could also talk about gout.
Oh yeah,
I
for sure.
find gout, yeah, you both probably agree. I mean, gout
Yeah.
is a problem, and it's usually men who suffer from gout. Why,
Right.
right? Why? Because they don't drink enough water and probably drink too much.
Right.
But
Too much alcohol, less water.
yeah. But I mean, if you want to talk about gout, are you guys?
Yeah. I'd love to
Please.
talk about gout.
Yeah, so I do help a lot of people with gout. And it's a uric acid buildup in the body, right? And it tends to affect joints in general, but you usually get the big toe problem first. The big toe joint seems to be the one that's affected first. And this uric acid can form crystals in and around the joint, so it can be very painful. And there's a lot of medications that people go on, And they're actually very horrific because you have to get your liver tested and all that jazz. But the problem with uric acid is in part liver and kidney. I tend to go more toward kidney, but it's
Right.
kind of both organs that are involved in getting rid of uric acid. And of course, things like shellfish and beer and tomatoes and these are the huge culprits that can really tip off gout because these foods are high in what's called purines. It turns to purines in the body, and there's a chemical reaction, and then it turns into uric acid, and then it gets built up, and then the kidneys can't get rid of it, and so it kind of stays in the circulation, and it causes problems. And so I do have several herbs that I use for gout, and I prefer to do tea. You could certainly do some type of elixir. I don't really like extracts for this, although I do know that they work. But because extracts are alcohol based, I mean, it can kind of be insult to injury, and it's certainly dose dependent, of course. But I
Right.
like tea, so and men are hard with tea. Some men are fine with tea, and other men are just like, nope, not drinking a tea. Not gonna do it. And then if it tastes bad, then forget it.
And there's always capsulization of
You
these
can
herbs,
always
right?
encapsulize the stuff. So my favorite herbs are, well, for one is burdock root.
Right.
And I love that one because
Blood
it not only
cleanser.
supports the liver, it's also going to help excrete urine from the body. So it's a diuretic. So that's one of my favorites right there. And I have a gout formulation. I'm not going to remember everything in it, but burdock is one of the main ones, and I like to use cat's claw and white willow just because they're anti-inflammatory for the joints. And then I like to use nettle, and I like to use the nettle leaf
Hmm.
because again,
Mhm.
that's going to support the kidneys and that's going to excrete uric acid. Um, Sometimes I'll put horsetail in there, but I don't like to use horsetail for too long because that can cause a hypertension problem in some people. So, and a lot of men are hypertensive, so you got to be careful with horsetail. But it is a lovely herb for short-term use, especially for those like acute cases of gout. Nettle seed would be fine here too. Um, and what else do I put in there? I think those are the main herbs that I use. There might be another one that comes out in my brain here in a minute. What was the other one? Oh, um, have you guys heard of celandine before?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, celandine is a plant. It's actually in the poppy family, so it grows everywhere around here, and it's a wild plant. It has a yellow sap, and it's also good for warts, coincidentally. But celandine
Mm,
is I tincture it, and because it's in the poppy family, it can be kind of um, toxic if you take too much of it. So it's one of those herbs that you're drop dosing. And
Right.
I was helping this guy with colorectal cancer for several years, and we were shrinking tumors and doing all that stuff. But the one thing he said to me, he was like, Sarah, the gout is gone. And I'm like, I put like just a couple of drops of celandine because it's good for cancer too.
right.
So I put it in his concoction. And he was also doing teas and stuff. So he's supporting his kidneys in many different ways. But he was just like, nothing about the colorectal cancer. Like, yeah, that tumor's shrinking, but the gout is gone, Sarah. It's like a miracle. I've always suffered from gout. The guy he was an alcoholic too. So he was very, very
Right.
dehydrated. And that's what we see. Men who suffer from gout are typically just they're not hydrated. They're drinking too many diuretics. So it could be your Red Bulls and crap like that, or it could be because they're just drinking too much alcohol. But
Right.
so
Right.
those are my favorites for gout, and they really, really work really well.
And I think it's always really important, even if our viewers, any men that are listening, if you're not at that age, do a proper kidney cleanse every once in a while, do a liver cleanse every once in a while. Go for a month of just feeding your body necessary herbs to support those organs so that you don't get to that stage, right? There's people that like to overindulge in certain things. Okay, so don't overindulge. So just obviously lifestyle changes here and there so that you don't get to that point in your life where you have all these issues and you're feeling a little bit helpless and then it's just everything, right? Chava, any
Uh,
last suggestions
yes.
for Gal?
And not for gout specifically, but
Okay, so any last words? Yeah.
right. So what I would suggest, I mean, whatever Sarah said, it's incredible, but I will want to cover something else, and it's important, the part of nourishment. And the men really, as they think if they eat a lot, then they actually absorb correctly and they're fine. But because we live in society where we might eat a lot but not necessarily we absorb all those nutrients, I would suggest always that every male should have a superfood where he puts in his drinks and then he drinks through the day or once or twice a day. And I myself seen incredible results where you combine spirulina and chlorella and green algae and some kelp and a good herbal vitamin C, and you combine them together with a B12, and that could be nutritional yeast. And if you combine all those together and you add them into your smoothie, you'll feel how your day will be absolutely different, because you'll get a full booster of important proteins and important herbal supplements that will feed your blood, will feed your heart, will feed your brain. And that's what I really want to, because many men, they don't really have time. Oh, what did I eat? Because they dependent on women. If the woman doesn't know, so at least the whole thing, what you can learn from our class today is, when if you listen to us, then just go get some superfoods, and once a day or twice a day, just put it in the drink, even in a grape juice, even in a pineapple juice, not in orange juice, because spirulina is not working well with orange juice and not with carrot juice. If you do that, you might feel gas, and then you say, what the hell Chava was saying, I'm full of gas now. But because they're not working well in combinations. But spirulina, chlorella, I would say I can suggest a couple of companies, let's say, that I love very much, and I do buy them, and I suggest to my clients as well. So Dr. Schulze's superfood formula is very good,
I
because
love
it
that. Yeah.
contains a very good amount of proteins, and also it's rich in vitamin C. And you don't have to think that much, because everything is right there. So you take a full scoop, add into that, and I would can say, if you want, you can add some hawthorn berries, like Sarah said. Then you have a whole boost. You'll see. You might not eat the whole day, but if you have a superfood in your car, in the tablets, or in the water, stop by 7-Eleven, get yourself a drink, pour it in, drink it, and you'll see your day will be absolutely incredible. So I do want to say, everyone, nourishment is everything. And one more last thing, when you hit at age 50, stay away from the doctor, because they will definitely will put you on the high cholesterol medication, which later on can cause more and more damage, can cause a heart damage, which is absolutely crazy. Many years ago, the numbers that they would do run on the blood test, and they would say, oh, you have a high cholesterol. That was considered a normal numbers. Up above 200, that was a normal numbers. Right now, we are low. Oh, 175. We have to be careful. We have to put you on the medicine. No, stay away from that and listen to your inner voice. And the body tells you, you're not sick. You're fine. And I have so many men come to me and tell me, I don't know why, what the doctor wants from me. He said I have to go on the medicine, but I feel fine. Yeah, so I have a little bit increased numbers. Yeah, so that's the idea. Stay away from the doctors. First, learn to take care of yourself. And if you see that you cannot, then call us. And if we don't succeed and we're not going to hold you, then go to the regular procedure. But it's really stay away, because I've seen so many cases, males, like, automatically, they don't think that much. They go to the doctor, they get the test, and the doctor say, hey, your cholesterol up high, here's the medicine. And you just blindly take it and you start humping, and that's for your life. And then it's not good, and stay away from it. That's all what I want to say.
I agree.
That's what it's a love-and-hate relationship for me with testing, because it's a range that they have you stick by, but they don't know what your normal is, right? So it can be a couple numbers up, but it could mean that that's your actual normal, your body, because we're so individual. But because everything is stuck in a range or an average, it's really hard to gauge individually what it feels like. So again, listen to yourselves, even during treatments or whatever the case might be. Listen to yourself. And if you're too busy, write it down so that you can go back to it and see how your body's reacting to whether it be certain medications if you're on them, or treatments that are herbal supplements. And, hopefully you will get help by one of our lovely healers, Kava or Sarah, because again, not only do they like the feedback, but with your feedback, they can adjust things for you, which is great to have someone on your side of the court rooting for you and helping you change your life. Because again, we don't just give herbs. We also like to see, okay, but how's your life like? What are you eating? What are you doing? What's your profession? And these are things that doctors don't ask. They don't ask that. They see a number and they give you a medication. And that's the big issue, is because everything is connected, right? In healing, we are mind, body, soul, environment, everything is absolutely connected. And so that's how we like to reach our clients, patients, our followers. We want you to understand that it's all connected. And in order to make a difference, you have to look at each and every one of those points in order to have a change in your life and in your health. With that finishing note, I'd like to thank you all for listening in today, and we will see you next time on Heal Yourself Naturally, brought to you by IPAC. Thank you all so much, and have a beautiful holiday. Holidays are coming up. Merry
Yeah,
Christmas,
beautiful.
Happy Hanukkah,
Happy
Happy New
Hanukkah.
Year.
Happy New Year.
We will be meeting again in January, the middle of January. We'll be talking about kidney health next, because it is a topic of it's a discussion that ties into a lot of the things that we've been talking about in terms of hormone health for women and men. So our next topic will be kidney health. We hope to have you all tune in, whether it be live or if you're listening to our podcast at a later time. Thank you all for supporting us, and have a beautiful holiday season and a happy new year.
Amazing.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.